But I mean, look,
You're walking in like right now.
between, see, there's different rescue agencies.
Jen's coming.
Maine Society doesn't have a certificate because the rescue agencies have been, they've been kind of splitting the work a lot, you know. So they're also on the home, like it's supposed to be.
We're shaking things up a bit.
Are you open on Saturdays too? Or? You are.
8 to 12 months.
Email?
Something to
I don't even
consider.
know where you shop is.
You can comment on it straight out North East Road, Midtown?
Yeah.
Right by the road
I get
turns.
confused. Once I get on
Would you
the
like this?
insurance, I'm like, you don't know where to sell, but.
Would you like a copy of this to take with you? And I can get another copy.
Oh, those are bad too. I didn't really spend that.
Well, I'll let you know.
I know.
It's on the, it's on the agenda. It is on the
Yeah,
agenda.
that's just to
Yeah,
get
we'll be
back over to
discussing
Fairfield
that.
if I'm in the back there and.
Over the years, I've gotten fairly
that's
good at
acceptable.
it because of all the frozen water pipes.
Oh,
and
thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, we'll be talking because that is on the agenda, so.
We lucked out that it started to warm up as quickly as it did, so did you get any people that had busted water pipes this time?
Well, see, and I quit thawing water pipes a year ago, so.
That's a good
I had
point.
one guy called and was all excited his hot water heat was froze. But even if I went and thawed it, he wouldn't have been able to do anything because he didn't have power.
Right,
That's why you never make decisions immediately. You never
that's
know
what I would
all the
worry about.
information you don't have yet.
So I was glad it warmed up.
Trees through the roof. There's a lot of trees down. A lot of trees down. There's 2 down in my brother's yard on his garage, but they're not damaging anything.
Thank goodness.
You know, and then one of my neighbors had
She writes it.
9 or 10 trees in her backyard. It's down. We get started here in about 45 seconds. Oh, Bobbsey twins traded places here, I see, huh? Dean's used to sitting in one chair. He's not going to sit somewhere else. Are you kidding?
So. The low chair.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regular Public Health and Safety meeting for March of the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners to order. First order of business would be the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bonnie, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Gilman,
Here.
Henschel,
Here.
Inman,
Here.
Limcool,
Here.
Richardson,
Here.
Thomas. Chairman Wheelock.
Yes, ma'am. And we'll note Commissioners Fleece and Max Bauer are excused. Next order of business is the approval of the minutes of the February 1st regular session of the Public Health and Safety Committee.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Thomas, supported by Richardson. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. This brings us to the first opportunity for public comment. There will be a second opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting, and we will also take comment if there's a specific discussion in regard to an agenda item at the time we're discussing that. Bonnie, will you read the rules for public comment, please?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act as amended. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. 1. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. 2. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. Chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak.
Having heard the rules for public comment, is there anyone wishing to make comment at this time? Jamal, go ahead. She was pacing over there, so I figured I better let her before she might have to make a mess if we didn't. You know.
Okay. Jamel Anderson, I'm the Director for Grand Traverse 911, and I'm here tonight. I wanted to give you an update on the activities in the dispatch center during the storm over the weekend. We were putting some numbers together and looking at the activity. I thought it was pretty significant, and being that our meeting was tonight, was timely to let you know. We pulled some old numbers on average weekend from Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. to a Saturday at 9 p.m. pulled some from March of last year and then a couple weekends from recently. Our average would be 142.5 incoming calls during that time, which is about just under 5 calls an hour. During the storm, we had 2,098 incoming calls, which averages 70 calls an hour. So we went from less than 5 calls an hour to 70 calls an hour. That's more than 14 times higher than our normal workload. About just over 45% of those calls were 911 calls. Our average 30-hour period would give us about 60 calls for service dispatched, which would be about 2 an hour. During the storm, we had 731 calls for service dispatched in that 30-hour period, which is over 24 calls an hour. So that equates to an incoming call every 1 minute, 1.16 minute, and a call for service every 2 minutes and 45 seconds for 30 hours straight. We had a tremendous amount of activity in the dispatch center, and I haven't even talked about the hundreds of outgoing calls and literally nonstop radio traffic over multiple emergency channels. So the emergency response vehicles had a difficult time. A lot of times they were stuck in the snow. They had to be rerouted due to debris and down lines. We had medics and rescue personnel that sometimes had no option other than to grab some critical equipment and run to a house because they couldn't get through. Our law enforcement professionals handled call after call after call after call, and the fire department personnel were just inundated with lines down and trees blocking the roadways. And you guys should know that your public safety professionals in this community were incredible. Our normal life at 911 didn't take a backseat either. We got to experience shots fired and people dying and overdosing and CPR in progress, and that's kind of the routine stuff. But unfortunately, that doesn't go away when we have things like this storm. So there are many challenges in the 911 profession, but in the end, what holds it all together are the people. And I can't adequately convey to you the tremendous dedication, professionalism, sacrifice, and sheer determination that went into successfully meeting the demands of the 911 Center this weekend. So, as it happens, the week of April 8th through the 14th is National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and I have brought a resolution for your consideration to support our dispatch staff. And I just wanted you to know what they face this weekend, and they came through with flying colors.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Any questions?
You can just-
No, I'd like to add that the road commission and the power companies have done one whale of
Absolutely.
a job in the last few
There's,
days.
I don't believe there's any question. The emergency services people in this community, both police, fire, and rescue, and the power companies and the road commission have done a fabulous job to get us through this weekend, because it was pretty ugly outside.
Yes, it was. Everybody had to pitch in and go way above and beyond, and it was awesome.
And they're not done. You know, there's still literally thousands of people in our community are still without power. I talked to a lady today that the power company told her it'll probably be sometime next week before she gets power. The people that live directly across the road from my shop, they're telling them Thursday or Friday.
Couple of questions. Where would 211 have been if this would have been up and running like we should have had? Would that have taken some of the pressure off you?
Potentially could have more for shelter, the warming houses, that type of thing, when people were realizing their power wasn't going to come back on and people really weren't sure what they were supposed to do. And they may have been able to help field some of the calls from the people that just continually called about their power. When we put out some press releases and some information trying to encourage people not to call 911 for that, because we just couldn't handle all the incoming calls.
Well, there is an 800 number for 211, and you can also go online, but that's the only way you get to it, that you don't have the 3-digit 211 here yet. So,
But
working on it.
That being said, Consumers Power in some of their ads was promoting the 211 number.
Yes, they were.
And telling people that they could dial 211, and
And-
you weren't going to get anybody from there.
Well, that's the problem. The 3-digit isn't working in our 5-county area. The other comment I would like to say is I wondered if it wouldn't be right to have our chairman send a letter to the dispatch and to our sheriff and thanking them for the yeoman work that they did for this past weekend.
Yeah, I'll get with staff, and we got emergency management and Dan Scott, and we'll include the whole group.
I
Sure,
think the
Dan's
whole
going
group.
to tell us what they went through on his side, too.
Yeah, I asked Dan if he could come to the meeting and give us an overview.
So I think just as a appreciation from, and knowing that we appreciate the work that they do.
Well, let us remember we're in public comment, too, so. Ma'am?
Hello, my name is Jennifer Isbell. I'm the editor and publisher of Pet Friends Magazine, and I live at 585 Spring Hill Road in Traverse City. The request to have the animal control dogs cremated instead of being taken to the landfill originated from something that happened in January of 2011. A beagle got hit by a car and it was brought to animal control by a citizen. Because the freezer was full, they told the person to leave the dog on top of the dumpster bin so the owner could retrieve it. The weekend passed and the snow fell on top of it. It wasn't until the next Tuesday that the animal control officers noticed that the dog was still on top of the dumpster. The owner finally showed up on Thursday and took the dog with her instead of having it go to the landfill. This story was featured in the Record Eagle as well as in my Pet Friends magazine. It was the first time many of us learned how the animal control dogs were disposed of, and many of us were surprised and disappointed to learn that the dogs were taken to the landfill. Years have passed since the decision was made to send animals to the landfill, and there are now local options available for the cremation of dogs. Most of these dogs have already been thrown away by their owners, and putting them in a dumpster just adds to the callousness of their final days. With the bad press that the animal control has received recently about the horse abuse case and the beagle case, I'm hoping that you will vote to start using cremation of the dogs for the following reasons. Number one is that it will give you some good press for the animal control. Number two is the amount that is asked for compared to other things such as the amount that was found for the health building is very insignificant. And number three is that it's the right thing to do.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment this time? Dan? You didn't have anything to do this weekend, did you?
Don't sleep either.
Dan Scott, Grand Traverse County Emergency Management Coordinator. I just would like to give a little overview. I mean, at first I'd like to say Jamel took all my thunder. That's why she was up dancing around so much. She beat me to it. But just give you a quick overview of what took place this weekend. Friday night, or Friday afternoon, we had gotten, of course, some advance reports from the National Weather Service that we were really going to get socked in. And because of that, I took home my pager, my radio, my cell phone, anything that I could communicate with. And I sat up that evening and finally fell asleep, to be honest with you, at 2 a.m. I could tell that things were starting to get a little dicey. Calls were picking up. I fell asleep. 4 a.m. I got a call from one of our fire chiefs, and he said, you know, we're really treading water here. We're running into some real issues. And I immediately got up, came in, and on the way in, I went to the County Road Commission garage, and I met with Jim Valade and his crews that he had called in. And I can't say enough about the road folks, not only the County Road Commission, but the city street people, the street plows. These guys work some horrendous hours. They seem to have a good attitude through the whole thing. And it was early in the morning, and it was a grumpy time. And they went out and did one heck of a job. There were tree limbs in the road. There were many cars that people had been out driving around, or it was Friday night, and they'd gotten stuck and left their cars in the middle of the road or in driveways or blocking the roadway. These guys did a heck of a job just getting the roads open enough for our emergency services folks to get in and out where they needed to go. Central Dispatch, I contacted them immediately after I left the County Road Commission, learned that they were inundated. They were just going crazy down there. And they advised me that we were expecting another 4 inches of snow and 30 to 40 mile an hour winds yet that morning. I contacted Mr. Kiesler, my immediate supervisor, advised him of what was going on. I again consulted with the fire department and decided to call Chairman Inman and ask if he would make an emergency declaration. A local emergency declaration has a number of items that can be done, and primarily what I had in mind was to have an emergency declaration to add some teeth to telling people to stay home. If you tell people roads are blocked or roads are plugged, you're still going to get the looky-loos that go out and wander the roads and try to see what's going on. If you tell them there's an emergency declaration, which it was a suitable situation for an emergency declaration, they're more inclined to take heed and stay home where we wanted them. The road commission didn't need any more cars in the ditch or blocking the roadways. I repeatedly throughout the day contacted WTCM, our emergency alert system radio station. I updated them about on an hourly basis. We would talk. I would update them. They would disseminate that information to the general public. The Emergency Management Division and Homeland Security Division in the past years have purchased emergency generators so that they can stay on the air no matter whether power's up, down, or in between. So they did, in fact, stay on for the entire approximately 48 hours of the major part of the storm. They did update the reports on a regular basis. The police, fire, and EMS, as Jamel mentioned, did a yeoman's job of keeping things under control. Regular life went on along with the storm, so they had a lot of other calls other than just storm calls. The Salvation Army, American Red Cross, The Rock in Kingsley, Green Lake Township Fire Department, Long Lake Township Fire Department, and just about all of the other departments indicated that they were available as a warming station if needed. Now, Green Lake Township, Long Lake Township, The Rock, Salvation Army actually performed as shelters. They would allow people to come in there and stay if need be. It worked out very well. I don't know of anyone that was refused sheltering. I know at one time during the day, police were tied up and a 90-year-old young lady in Williamsburg was socked in, no heat, no power, no lights, and I drove out there and picked her up and brought her into town, and that was the only person I knew that was in dire straits at that time. Now, since then, we've heard of some other horror stories where people have been cold for a long period of time, and that's unfortunate. We've done what we could do. I take personal responsibility if we fell short anywhere. I made the calls, and I know there's been a couple complaints or concerns from citizens that they felt they weren't getting enough information from the media. And I talked to both of the persons with concerns. I advised them that WTCM is our emergency alert broadcast system. It's either FM or AM. And the one person indicated that he had lived here for 40 years and wasn't aware of that. And I believe that. I talked to my wife, and she said, I didn't really understand that. So we've taken steps already to put notices in the utility bills, reminding folks if there is an emergency, this is the emergency alert system. This is the channel you tune in for updated information. Another concern was internet access. And we've already talked to, or I've talked to the webmaster, and we're going to do a little work on that and at least explain what an emergency declaration is so folks know exactly what's expected of them during an emergency declaration.
Most of us didn't have internet service anyway.
Yeah, man, I didn't at home either. I didn't at home. But as of this morning, I checked, and we're down to, I guess you can't, my last report indicated we were under 1,000 people out of power in Grand Traverse County yet. Now, Leelanau and Benzie have quite a bit more folks, but in Grand Traverse County, we're under 1,000. Sorry, Mr. Henschel, most of them are in your neck of the woods. But we're making a good headway. We're making some corrections to some deficiencies. Nothing went perfectly smooth, but I guess I'm here to answer any concerns that you folks might have.
I'd just like to say, I think that the emergency crews did an admirable job. I will also say that this is a reminder of where we live.
And Mr. Inman, to answer a question that you had earlier, the emergency declaration, I indicated on that, it was sent to the state, I indicated on that it was authorized by you, by telephone conversation at 6 a.m. on March the 3rd.
Okay.
So we're good.
It's interesting, my wife coordinates the Odyssey of the Mind tournament that was supposed to be held Saturday morning. We started getting phone calls Friday, mid-morning about canceling the tournament. Well, we're talking, 130 volunteers, 68 coaches, about 650 kids. You can't just cancel this thing if you don't have to. So the decision was made to delay it 3 hours. And that gave us time Saturday morning to contact everyone and actually, in fact, cancel it. I told folks, it's wintertime, it's northern Michigan, we do get snow, and I've seen a lot of times where they'll tell us we're going to get 20 inches and we get 4. If we'd have got a normal snowfall, there would have been no reason we'd have had to cancel, so.
I have one question. When a local unit declares an emergency, like we did, are we available? Obviously, a number of agencies had some overtime and had to call everybody in and over an extended period of time. Are we eligible for any state emergency funding if we declare the emergency, or does the governor have to do that?
I was afraid you were going to ask that.
Yeah, and you probably don't know the answer to that.
I do know.
Oh, you
I do know.
He does know, but it's not the answer you want to hear.
That's correct. We could qualify, possibly qualify. Now I've talked to 2 people from the state since Monday, and I've been advised that it's possible, but highly doubtful. Okay? But they said in order to qualify, we have to do damage assessments, we have to go out and take photographs, we have to go through the financial accountability process. I mean, you're talking a lot of work, and if you so desire, I'll do that. And, don't read me wrong, but
We'll just have to absorb probably the additional
20
cost.
inches of the 30 inches of snow that we got is already gone.
Yeah.
Doesn't look so bad now.
yeah, I'd do that. I wouldn't be happy to do it, but I'd do it.
No, we'll just,
I
there'll
think-
be an impact on others' budgets, but we'll just have to get through it.
Yeah. I'll just quickly comment that there's more than 1,000 people without power. East Bay is 796, Garfield Township's 306, and that's just 2 of them.
Oh,
So you can look on Trailland Electric's website, they've got a big spread of how many people in each area are out, so.
because this morning,
They have, in their area, which is more than our county, there's 4,675 members without power.
this morning, they indicated on the website 800, and I don't mean to...
But, I had power for about 2 hours and it's gone. And we had customers coming in the store all day saying, yeah, I had power and then it went out. I called them and they said, no, I'm at the bottom of the list. So,
Saturday was a long day, and I did make contact with Mr. Inman. I talked to Dean and Fred. I contacted Commissioner Fleece the following morning to give him the status update, because I knew you were out of town. But
And that was discontinued approximately
Monday morning.
Monday morning, okay.
Monday morning, yes. And actually, we kept it in effect Sunday, but I did contact the radio station and tell them that we reduced the travel restrictions to essential traffic
Okay, all right.
rather than emergency.
I just want to say
Thank you.
thanks, Larry, for keeping us posted as to what was happening.
Yep, and I got on the phone down to everybody. All right, good job, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Is there any other public comment at this time? Seeing none, we have the approval of the agenda. I would note that we will be requiring a closed session as item 15. It's on there as needed, and we will be holding a closed session.
Move for approval for the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chairman,
Rob?
Commissioner Fleece couldn't be here, and he asked if item 10, the animal control discussion, could be moved to the next meeting. Should we do that now, or? And that's not talking about the cremation, that's
We
just...
can, in regard to the animal control and sheriff's department discussion.
We can just do that when we get to that line item.
We can just do that as we get to it. We have a
Okay.
handout that was available from administration. We'll receive that and then probably not take action on it tonight because Commissioner Fleece has been kind of spearheading that discussion.
Yeah, we can just defer to the next meeting.
Okay. All right, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the agenda with the amendment of the closed session. Is there further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We have no special order of business this evening. This brings us to the consent calendar. Bonnie, if you would, please.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Commission on Aging Monthly Report for January. Number 2, Community Corrections Monthly Report for January. Number 3, Grand Traverse Metro Beta Letter B, approval. Number 1, Commission on Aging Donation and Grant Reports.
Having heard the consent calendar, is there any item that the public wishes to have removed? Any member of the board wishing to have something removed? Herb?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Support.
Motion by Lemko, supported by Thomas. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gilman,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes.
Lemko,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yep.
Wheelock.
Yes, ma'am. No items removed from the consent calendar. This brings us to the Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office resident banking software. Lieutenant Monroe is going to handle this discussion, I take it. Good evening, Buck.
Good evening. Lieutenant Monroe with the Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office, County Jail. Wanted to bring in front of you tonight we have a resident banking software and commissary services contract renewal option in our contract. It's a 3-year extension. This contract is currently set to expire on June 30th of 2012. Just for information purposes, there is no charge to Grand Traverse County for this banking software. It's all based on a percentage of what the inmate profit account gets based on the sales of the commissary. So it doesn't cost the county anything for this software. We currently just had some issues with our jail management system in the interface with Swanson's commissary services. And our IT department has been banging their heads against the wall with this interface, and we just got it up and running about 2 months ago. And we have the support of Mr. Sheehan to extend this contract, exercise the option for the 3-year renewal, just based on the fact that if we go ahead and put it out for any kind of bid now, what kind of problems are we going to have with the New World jail management system, interface system? So that's a major concern of ours. We have received a letter, as you may have in your packet, from Dan Phillips, who is the service manager, I believe, is his title, service center manager down in Grand Rapids, who services our jail, saying that we have not had any problems. They would love to continue their service with us. And just as a side note as well, since we've had Swanson Services, our finances, as far as keeping track, our reconciliations, we have not lost a penny. Everything has been right on target. So that is also a wonderful thing that we can be proud of. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Herb?
Yeah, I noticed that a couple of other local organizations offered that. Was that part of the bid when we got that, like Canteen or something? Did I read that?
When we put it out for bid 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Yes. Canteen was, a bid went out, a RFP went out 3 years ago. We had Keefe out of, I believe, in Ohio. We had Canteen Services, and we had Swanson Services. And based on their RFPs and our team, our evaluation team of those proposals, Swanson's was awarded the contract. And at that time, the contract had that option for a 3-year renewal at the end of the current contract.
Thank you.
Jason?
I'm one of those people that hates to change a process when I start to use a process. Sometimes in my own personal business, I would rather, even if it costs a couple bucks more, rather than go through the nightmare, as you say, you went through an entire process over 3 years, just kind of making it work. So therefore, I would move that we authorize them to extend the contract with the resident banking software and the commissary services.
Second.
Motion by Gilman, supported by Inman. Further discussion? Rob?
I understand. Is this just software, or this is the whole merchandise and everything?
This is the whole merchandise.
thing.
This is the commissary services as well as the banking software.
And prior to 3 years ago, we used Canteen, correct?
That's correct.
And how long did we use Canteen?
12, maybe 14 years.
Okay, and the reason we switched was the price competitiveness, or?
Not necessarily the price. I mean, we pretty much set our own percentage on what kind of a profit margin we want to make. We're not trying to sell the commissary to make, a big profit off of it. It's just enough to keep the inmate profit account high enough to keep buying stuff for the inmates. One of the things that one of the problems we had with Canteen was their banking software wasn't as good, if you will, for keeping track of the funds. If you remember, we lost $16,000.
We were having significant issues reconciling the activity. The finance staff assisted with the review of the RFPs, and they just offered a better product, to be quite frankly honest. And
The technology was better in their
it has more capability, and we are, finance and IT both support this extension.
If my memory is correct, the Canteen proposal 3 years ago was kind of a patchwork thing. It was bits and pieces. It wasn't a complete, conducive product, and that was a big part of what made the decision, and I certainly support the idea of extension. And I, like Jason, don't like to change things if I don't have to, if it's working. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Brings us to the Health Department.
Evening, Fred.
Are we here all night?
Well, it's up to you, I guess.
We gotta get you an iPad.
Fred brought too many books.
Good answer.
Fred Kiesler, Public Health Officer, Grand Traverse County Health Department. First item was a quality improvement policy. And a lot of this business tonight is tied to our accreditation program, which comes up every 3 years. And we're going into cycle 5 now, so that requires this. Quality assurance in particular has basically been part of public health for as long as I've been in, to different degrees, but it's been more of an issue really when Commissioner Inman was chairman at one time, when you got into the quality thing. And types of things we do in the quality assurance is Dr. Collins pulls records from our clinics and evaluates whether the nurse practitioner handled the case properly at our adolescent clinic. Tom and I occasionally go out and inspect restaurants together to see if the quality assurance is going through on the inspections done by environmental health staff. we have Department of Environmental Quality come in and look at our well program for quality assurance. We, of course, go through the accreditation process where we go under a microscope for all of our programs, such as maternal support and WIC and other programs. So, family planning and other. So we've gone through quality assurance. Quality improvement is a different thing, and there's a whole prescribed manner in this policy that we go through. And actually, we did one quality improvement project already without having the policy. We got some money a year or so ago. I came here to receive that money that helped support that. And what we did is we did a quality improvement of trying to improve the scores on our ServSafe program for food handlers, that what we could do to improve those scores, and particularly those who are challenged for language issues. We want to continue on that. Our Quality Improvement Committee is now working on a phone communication system improvement. Years ago, when we went to the type of phone system we have, in lieu of having a person answer the telephone as an operator, we went to the system where you punch 1 to do this and punch 3 to do that, and by the time you get to number 8, you're ready to punch the phone. But anyway, we recognize that that's been an issue, is that people feel they can't get to it. So we're doing a survey process to see people who have tried to reach our services. We're going to do it with our clients, with other agencies, internally. I'm happy for you to take the survey too, and it's going to be online on Monkey Survey. And so that's part of the quality improvement of where there can be an improvement made on an existing system in lieu of an evaluation of how we're doing on a program, if you follow this nuance. As per part of the accreditation process, they're pushing that we go have a policy for quality improvement, and therefore I bring this policy for your review. Hopefully approval.
Well, I think we all recognize that Grand Traverse County Health Department has, through its accreditation program, has had stellar marks for a long time. And, you know, that's a credit to Fred and his staff that happens. You know, I think one of the things that will help us with this process is the new building, if nothing else. You know, when we install the new phone system, we will have the capabilities of doing other things. You know, we got way too many wires strung around in way too many places in the old building already, so, you know, that'll help. Ross?
I'd like to make the motion to approve the submitted quality improvement policy.
Motion by Richardson, supported by Inman. Further discussion?
I just wanted to say that I think our health department was the first health department in the state of Michigan to get accredited. Way back.
It was in the first group, but we had the highest score.
And they had the highest score, so, no.
And we still continue to have that.
And we still continue to strive for greatness.
What does the accreditation get us? I mean, what is the benefit of the accreditation?
The contract that you approve to get the $1 million+ from the Michigan Department of Community Health requires that we go through an accreditation process by the Michigan Public Health Institute. It's and they're trying to make it a nationwide program for the Centers for Disease Control and the American Association of Public Health to have an ongoing improvement system through accreditation process. Michigan is one of the first states in the union to have an accreditation process for local public health departments. And now there's going to be this national accreditation, including the state agencies. That's one of our gripes, is that people come in and the state comes in and evaluates us, but who is checking their quality? And so that's going to be part of the process.
So what it allows us to do then is essentially write grants for our contract, or write our contract with the state currently for money from the state?
It is a condition of the contract.
It is a condition of the contract. And then are we expanding the scope of the?
Well, the quality improvement is extra points.
Extra points, okay. And what over and above our current accreditation does this do? I mean, I kind of read it, and it's all, you know, they use a lot of
gobbledygook.
Gobbledygook.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, it's just what I said, is that we have an internal committee established, and it's not at all administrative. It's actually to be led by the staff itself with limited administration input. So there's a bias on that. And it's where, so you have a nurse, a clerk, an environmental health person, and our health educator sit down and they say, okay, let's do a poll. What are the kinds of issues that we feel it needs improvement first? Okay. And that we did a trial thing on this food service thing to get a grant for $5,000 to help us get in a consultant to help us with that. This may open up other grant money or may not, but what it does is it tries to ingrain the issue of quality, that when you do a service that there is some, it isn't just an opinion saying, I don't like the phone system, it doesn't work, let's change it, as a health officer, head of the department, let's do that. It's more of going to this community and say, we get so many complaints about people getting lost calls or getting lost in the myriad of trying to get the right number. They can't reach us. Do something about it.
So as a part of the process, there is a process to
There's a
comply
very
with
defined
particular parts of it. The other part of it, you mentioned the Centers for Disease Control. So are we then trying to accomplish something of a federal goal then? Is that?
That is a federal movement. The National Associations of Boards of Health, American Public Health Association, together with CDC, have been pushing to have this, and accredited schools like University of North Carolina have been part of this accreditation process on a national level. And like I said, Michigan is one of the first states to do that. We're in the 5th cycle. Some states haven't started yet.
And then as a part of that, are we expending any extra effort? Are we spending any resources in the hopes to benefit from it? Or is it something that you can see immediate results in the community? I mean, are there metrics that we're using to show that it has a real value?
That's part of the system, is to then, after you've done what you've done, is to test it and see if it really was a change or not. So that's part of the system. And that's what closes on that, and then it kind of turns into a quality assurance process. Is, okay, we made these improvements, does it really work?
All right, thank you.
All right.
Is there further discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the quality improvement policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Plan of organization, POOP. This is the plan of organization. Last cycle, we printed out the whole POO for you. It seemed like a bit much. So what I did is I put in an abbreviation in here. Plus, we added one thing that I realize is probably a sleeper, but it's a change in our bloodborne pathogen and chemical hygiene policy, which originally was in our laboratory section. You see, there's a book much thicker than this. It's just the instructions for accreditation. And this is just a section of accreditation. The thing is, I need to get this approved tonight so that by the end of the month, I can get the minutes of the meeting approving that so that I can get it in the mail so that the state gets it before June 2nd. Then our on-site evaluation for accreditation is the first week of August. So that gives them between June 1st and August 9th to evaluate our POO, and then, I'm sorry, our plan of organization. And then we'll have the on-site evaluation, and the inquisitors will come and ask me a lot of questions. The legal responsibility and authority is the first section, which is what laws do we enforce, what's the governing entity's relationship with us, meaning you are the de facto Board of Health. The manner local health department defends and indemnifies employees. We have to have a proof of insurance for employees, agreement on contract arrangements, exposure plan for bloodborne pathogens and chemical hygiene. Then the local health department organization, local governing bodies approve a local health department's organizational chart, which you did about a year, last year, January was our thing. And then when you approve, when I give you the annual report, the revised one is, when you accept that, we'll have the 2012 plan organization, which is basically who who is in what slot in the organization.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution showing the 2012 Plan of Organization as submitted.
Support. Motion by Inman, supported by Limcool. Further discussion?
Just a question, the recommendation says that it was submitted, so should we receive and approve it?
Correct.
Or just approve it?
I don't
We should
receive.
receive and approve. What's the minutes needs to say so that you can get your stuff
Right.
sent down?
Right.
Fine with that
Receive and
clarification.
approve.
Okay.
Received and approved.
We're going to receive it and approve
Okay.
it. Okay. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Part of the plan of organization,
Oh, you got it.
oh, excuse me,
Yeah.
is the annual report, which you see we just published, and it's online at our website, and it gives data and descriptions of the programs that we provide. If you had any questions on that, but that's part of the acceptances, which is required by state law that I give you annually.
Move to accept it.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve and accept the annual report, and I assume that comes with the 29 attachments that are listed in my agenda. So we'll note that.
The only question I have here is, when it talks about animal control, it only talks about dogs, and we've had a horse problem, and I'm just wondering if there's something in our reports in the future that we ought to be looking at all animals in our community, rather than just dogs as part of the annual report. Just,
Well, I don't know if you want me to go into this now or wait till we get into the annual.
We'll wait.
oh, wait.
You can wait.
Yep.
I gotta-
That was just a comment about the...
I got a 5-minute answer to that.
Okay.
We have a motion by Thomas, supported by Inman, to approve the annual report by the Health Department. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. The last item under Fred's section is animal cremation.
Yes.
Did you want to speak to that? Do we want to speak to that tonight, or do we want to table that discussion along with the other part?
Might as well discuss it, it's here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did we miss?
All right,
And we have people in the audience that probably have some...
that's fine.
It's all part of it.
Yeah, as described earlier, is there was a concern when the person wanted the remains, and particularly the collar of their dog, asked that it be left so they could get it after hours, so they left it on the dumpster, and that happened, and then the Record Eagle and others looked into this, and there was a concern that actually that's where the remains of the dogs that we euthanize go. And so consequently, Tom, I asked him to check with places that cremate animals, to get some idea what it would cost. And the cost is, I mean, the direct cremation, but also what legwork our staff has to go through to be there when they come to pick up the remains. So,
You have in your packet information regarding comparing
Tom, you should introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tom Buss, Environmental Health / Animal Control Manager. In your packets, there's a cost estimate from comparing hypothetically from 2011 to 2009. Assuming for 2011 we had 46 dogs that were euthanized, comparing that to 2010, 64, and 2009, 99 dogs euthanized. And with that, we came up with an estimate of $9 per animal for cremation, and multiplied it out, and you can see the cost estimates if we would have done animal cremations back then, what those prices would be, what those costs would be. So as far as the cost for the dumpster goes, that would not go away. You know, we still need to have the dumpster service there. There could be possibly some reduction in cost involved with that, since we wouldn't have the need for the disposal, pickup of animals through that. So the costs shown up above here would be above and beyond what we currently would pay. And that's why we're bringing it to you for consideration and discussion to see if you would be wanting to go that route and do the pet cremation. We do have 3 places locally. I say locally, within the Grand Traverse area. There's one near Chum's Corners, another one, I believe, near Lake City, and another crematorium for animals in Glen Arbor. And I have gotten proposals from all 3 of them.
Rob?
How do our surrounding counties handle this issue? Is anybody cremating?
Some of them, some cremate, some don't, you know, it's,
I mean, is there a statistic?
I don't really have any statistics on that, but I know it's a mix.
Thank you.
Jason?
Well, you know, this is one of these things where there is a point, and I think from mental health, frankly, people think of their dog lying in a landfill. It just, or a dog or cat or whatever, it doesn't feel good, you know what I'm saying? And these are our companions, and there's a certain finality to the cremation, and there's a certain respect that we give our companions. In these cases, I think the cost of $400 a year roughly is a drop in the bucket for the respect that our companions deserve. And as you all know, I'm hardly one to spend money where we ought not spend it, but this is bigger than that. So I would move that we approve the cremation as the preferred method of disposal.
Support.
Okay, motion by Gilman, supported by Richardson. Further discussion, Ross?
The summary here says, due to requests from citizens and local animal groups. I can assume that the citizens and local animal groups are overwhelmingly in favor of
Yes.
cremation?
Yes.
No. I mean, I know that my last pet dog that died, I cremated, and the ashes are still sitting on the shelf. It does seem a lot more respectful than, you know, throwing in a dumpster and putting it out in a landfill, so.
Rob?
Yeah, it does raise an interesting question. Are the ashes available to people if we do this service? Or is this
Not
only
as
for
far as I-
euthanized animals that have been abandoned?
I think they are, all 3 places, they have proper disposal at the places. These are dogs that are euthanized that aren't really, they aren't pets necessarily that were adoptable, some of them were injured. And, you know, a majority of our dogs that we have go to pet rescue, which is great. But, you know, it's a few number every year, and, you know, thank heavens it's been going down, have to be euthanized. So generally, these aren't the pets that are, you know, folks' cherished.
Tom said that accurately, is that vast majority of these dogs, we don't know who the owner is. The dogs that were at large and so forth. Occasionally, we petition the court to put a dog down. Oftentimes, those owners will want the remains themselves.
Dick?
These places that do the cremation, if you take a dog in there, you can get the ashes. Because I've made 2 or 3 little bottles that I put them in.
Herb?
My dogs.
You know, I think this motion basically says this is what we're going to do, but we haven't said that we're going to go out for quotes for organizations. You have said that you've gotten quotes from 3 different organizations, but I don't see them all listed here as to what those quotes are. Is the $9 the average price, or is it the low price?
$9 was about the lowest price, and all 3 of them, you know, gave us a pretty good break just because, you know, it's not just an individual dog, it's a number of them, so they gave us a pretty good break on price for that. And $9 was about the best price.
I can either come back with a contract, or you can give me approval to take the lowest bidder.
I think, you know, the motion's pretty clear that we want to go for it, but my concern is that I want to give preference to a Grand Traverse County business, if we can.
Just the comment that I would make, based on the cost here and your procurement policy, this is well within Fred's and Tom's purview. They've obtained quotes, and they can make a decision based on that information. The the desire to keep it local, I'm sure they'll take that into consideration.
It's certainly not a large enough dollar amount that we need to do
Yeah.
a sealed bid
No.
operation
No.
or a formal bidding process.
But I just want to make sure that we do with local.
As part as, you know, as part of the discussion, I think it's very clear that if we pass this motion, which I'm very confident we will, that Tom and Fred will negotiate a contract and there will be a contract with a vendor.
One of the vendors is here. I don't know if they want to speak.
Right, and I was wondering if there was anyone in the audience that wanted to speak to this issue? Mandy's sitting back there biting her lip. Mandy, you'll have to come to the mic because we can't hear you back there. The TV doesn't get us with you back there.
My name is Mandy DePio. I'm with Oakwood Pet Cremations and Oakwood Pet Memorial Center. We are located in Maple City. We do service the whole northern Michigan area, Grand Traverse County, Benzie, Leelanau County. How we do our cremations, certainly if there was an individual whose animal was put down for whatever reason, we can certainly return the cremations back to them, the ashes back to them. Otherwise, we have a memorial garden where we would put all the remains into, so if anybody ever did come back to the county, they could certainly go and reflect there, so. But I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on cremation.
Any questions? Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Yeah, yes, ma'am. You'll have to come
Have to
use
come to the
mic.
microphone.
Thanks, ma'am.
In regard to costs for cremation, I can't help but
Sorry,
bring up...
I need your name and where you're...
Marty Reskowski. It's my understanding that all of Leelanau County's animal control goes directly to Cherryland, and it doesn't occur in Grand Traverse. Our strays go to animal control, and Cherryland only takes them if they choose to take them, or if a rescue group has room that would take them. It's not automatic that they are taken, if they're adoptable, that they go elsewhere. They sometimes do and they sometimes don't. And if we could find a way that the stray animals in this county automatically, if they're adoptable, went on to Cherryland or somewhere, like they do in Leelanau, then that right there would reduce the cost of having to have them cremated because they wouldn't have to be killed.
Would you like me to respond?
Sure, go ahead, Fred.
Well,
We tried that.
we're going to get into this animal thing, no matter what, is we took a big hit in the budget in 2002, okay, when Dennis first came on, and we laid off a number of people, including our animal control officer. And I negotiated with Cherryland with this very idea. They were going to build a new building. We had our staff cut. We couldn't use trustees. You get a long issue in that to help clean the kennels and stuff. So we negotiated for nearly a year. And Herb was there, and Commissioner Thomas was there. When we discussed this, is the fact that we were going to try to do this, and this would be a win-win thing. And then on January 14, 2003, I got a letter from Jess Reed and Mike Cherry saying, thanks, but no thanks. And we didn't get the contract. They didn't want to work with us, so on. That was the end of the...
We spent a solid year trying to negotiate
Right.
a contract with Cherryland Humane Society, and they wouldn't sign the contract.
So if the public knew that, that's good to know, because when Cherryland needed money, $200,000 was given to them right away. And had, maybe the public needs to put pressure on them, and then it's not a county issue, it's Cherryland that needs to open that up, and that would help.
We would have been more than happy, because it would have alleviated, put our animal control officers spend about half of an FTE, half of a person, just cleaning the kennels.
Right. And they don't want them put down either, I understand that. And I just wondered why that, Leelanau's go there, ours don't. What is the issue? And it sounds like then you really tried to resolve that, and it's with Cherryland, then the public needs to know that, and maybe that it will take, help resolve it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Fred, we have a contract to clean them on the weekend
Right.
outside your
Right, because
officers. because nobody's there.
These are hourly people, we'd have to pay them time and a half at over 40 hours.
All right, we have a motion and a second to authorize the Health Department to negotiate a contract for the cremation of animals that are euthanized under our control. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to defer the next unfinished business item, animal control, question of administration, defer that to the RMA meeting next Wednesday.
Support.
Motion made and seconded to move the unfinished item, animal control, to the Resource Management Administration meeting next week. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. We have no business, new business. This brings us the opportunity for a second public comment. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to make comment at this time? Seeing none, County Commissioner reports. Herb?
Well, I'd just like to bring up the fact that we received a letter from Jane Pasco about the library getting rid of the Sight and Sound, and I hope that our representative would keep us updated as to what's happening and why.
Well, in the facilities and the planning process, trying to get the Blair Library up and running, there's got to be a shuffle of money, because it's not just money that's been sitting around waiting to be spent. And the Library for the Blind is a redundant service. It's at least seen as a redundant service, and it's a service that can also be provided straight from Lansing. And most of the service that's provided is actually a delivery of the materials to the patrons. Those deliveries are going to get there at the same time, whether we deliver them from our library or whether they come from Lansing. And it comes at a cost of $60,000 a year to the Tattle system. Now, I'm sure there is a small advantage of having it here, especially for those who visit, but we don't have the numbers to support the kind of spending. And then when we're comparing the overall, trying to provide, balance the services to the community, we've got 9,000 people who are underserved in Blair, who should have a library. And right now, the magic's happening, but that's a part of it. And unfortunately, it looks worse than it is. It is definitely a sensitive issue, but it's not. We're not really losing any of those services directly. It's just going to be coming from a different source.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's the answer we need. Any other commissioner comments? Notices? Oh, I'm sorry, Russ.
Well, this was part of the consent calendar on the Commission on Aging, but I just wanted to point out one thing, that it was a receive and file for us at the start of this meeting, but I would just like to point out that the Senior Center Network is now working on bringing Senior Center programming to the Fife Lake Senior Center. So that'll be in addition to, of course, what has already been created at Interlochen and Kingsley. So.
Okay. Further comments from commissioners? Any notices or announcements that anyone knows of? None.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we go in closed session regarding the estate of Carlson versus Jetter.
Support.
Motion by Inman, supported by Richardson, to go into closed session with our attorney in regard to Carlson versus Jetter in the litigation. Chris, are we expecting to make a decision tonight that we'll have to come back and announce?
No.
Okay. So we're not anticipating that a decision will be made this evening. So we will come back into open session and adjourn the meeting. Roll call vote, please, Bonnie. Got to do that part first.
Commissioner Henschel?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Lemkohl?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Thomas? Gilman?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am. We will go into the committee room or in the planning training room.
that it was right or wrong. I'm just
I'll
saying it's
entertain a
letter.
motion to come out of closed
So
session.
moved.
Motion by Inman, supported by Gilman. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Henschel, supported by Inman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All gone. Thank you,
Send me
everyone.
that article.